I spent 2 decades as a Fortune 500 head of HR sitting in the rooms where promotions were decided. I'm Courtney O'Connell, and I'm bringing you inside the promotion room. Today in the promotion room, I interviewed Denise Moss, who was an aspiring lawyer who changed her path because of a 4-letter word, life. She talks about grit and how we often get in our own way at work and the cheat code for career success. You won't want to miss this one. Here is Denise Moss. Denise, welcome to the promotion room.
Yes. Hi, Courtney.
So, Denise, I always like to start with asking my guests, where are you from? Where'd you grow up?
Yeah.
And what did you want to be when you were a little girl?
Ooh, such a great question, first of all. Well, I am from Birmingham, Alabama, and I'm so proud of it. I am a girl from the South. What I wanted to be when I was a little girl, I actually wanted to be an attorney. I wanted to be a lawyer. And it's still not too late. So yeah, I wanted to be an attorney. I think because when I was in school, I experienced some bullying and I also had some friends that experienced the same thing. And we were sort of, Courtney, kind of the outcast, right? And I wanted to take up for my friends and also my little brother. And I felt that lawyers, in my eyes as a little girl, help protect people, help take up for people. And I think that that's where that came from, of me wanting to be an attorney and wanted to advocate for people and help protect them.
Yeah, right. That sense of justice and
Yeah.
fairness. Yeah, I get that. What veered you off that path? Why not head off to law school and pursue that path?
Life.
Pesky life.
Life. That the 4-letter word, life. I I always had a strong work. I started working when I was 13 years old, Courtney. I worked at a local hospital, children's hospital, just filing papers, worked in the office. I worked at another hospital the next summer when I was about 14, 15. And so I was always working from the age of 13. And then when I became 16, I got my first job at McDonald's. I believe everyone should work in fast food. You learn the hustle mentality there. So I started working at McDonald's at 16. And at around 17 years old, I met a gentleman that I ended up marrying, and we had 2 kids, and it just veered my path of going off to college. I already had everything planned out. I was in my junior, senior year. I'm like, okay, I'm going to Auburn University. This is where I'm going to study. This is, honor student, everything. But the whole path written out for me. And then I diverted from that path. I got married at 17 years old and had my first son at 18 and 19. So you and I were talking earlier about children from college all the way down to 6. And so, yeah, I have a son that's 25, that's in the military and married.
Oh, thank him for his service on behalf of all of us at the pod. And you
Thank
must be
you.
incredibly proud.
So
So, yeah, so with life, right? So best
life.
laid plans and life. And so this is why I love asking the question, because if I looked at you on LinkedIn, which I have, you have this incredibly impressive professional career. And yet you and I both know that underneath the resume is an actual story of life and
Yeah.
twists and turns and challenges and celebrations and lucky breaks and getting sucker punched by life when you least expect it. And that's what this is about, is the human
Yeah.
element of how careers are built. So thank you for
Yeah.
sharing that. So here you are, you're 18, married, kiddos, and a dream of becoming a lawyer that obviously starts to pivot and edit itself. So walk us through how you got into corporate.
Yeah. 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 So 18 years old and I was juggling life. And so I decided then, okay, I'm going to have to put my dreams on hold because I'm having a little one and it's just not the time. So what ended up happening with being a mom, being a wife, family life, I decided to get a part-time job because I also wanted to make sure that I was helping out because we were a young, struggling couple.
Yeah.
And, hey, milk costs.
Yes. Gas.
And so I started working very part-time at a company where we did like phone political surveys called the Parker Group. And I worked there in the evenings when my husband would get off. He was a barber. And so we tag team it. So I worked there for a little bit. Life again, that 4-letter word came and And in probably 2 to 3 years as a young couple, we ended up getting a divorce. I was 20, 21 years old. I actually had to go and live with my best friend. I actually lived with her mom, her aunt, the kids. We would split time between them being with him and coming over. And one day I saw an advertisement. This was, I'm going to age myself. This was in the newspaper when you would see jobs still be in the newspaper
Yeah.
for me.
Yeah. There was
Yeah.
no Indeed.com back in the day.
There was no Indeed.com. And I saw an advertisement for a teller, being a teller. It was at AmSouth Bank, which is now Region. And you had to take a math test because, listen, you can't be a teller without knowing how to count money.
Yep.
So I went in, I was so nervous. They had us take a math test. I'm holding my breath. He's like, if you're in this room, you've passed the test to be a teller. And I was like, wow, yes, that was the beginning of me being in corporate America, working as a teller at a bank. I met some lifelong friends there. I had a blast working at the bank. It was so much fun. I mean, you learn who comes in, you learn like the busy times, you start to learn Mr. Robinson coming in, you start to learn how he liked his money. It was just a whole thing. It was like they should do like a reality TV on being a teller. It was a whole culture of just knowing the people that came in and just kind of building those bonds and relationships. I really loved that job. I was there for probably about a year and a half and I made a switch, but that was my first experience being in corporate America.
So give us kind of the clip note arc of the rest of your career to where you are today.
Yeah. So I decided to go back to school. I went to Virginia College. Obviously fell in love with anything with numbers. And so I went back and got my accounting degree.
Okay.
And I was really proud of that because, it was delayed, but I got it done. And my sons were able to see me walk across the stage. It's one of the most proudest moments of my life with my mom and my grandmother. And so what I did then was, it was kind of hard for me as a young professional. I'm thinking 22 to 24. So I worked jobs more so in the customer service area. I worked at a heating and air company, like being their dispatcher, doing their customer service, setting appointments for them, because that was my background with working at my very first job. And so then I did that for probably about 2 to 3 years, and my big break came. I went through a staffing agency and they said, we have the perfect opportunity for you, Denise. There's this company that needs a receptionist to work the front desk. You have that personality, the customer service experience, experience with being on the phone. We think that you would be a good fit for it. That was the very first start. And I can proudly say that was the start of my HR career. And I still talk to my old manager from time to time. And she recently just told me that she was proud of me. And that meant the world to me. So, Charmin, if you see this, thank you.
So you get the job as a receptionist and
I get the job as the receptionist, Courtney. And this job was the best job of my life. I'm getting to do things that honestly I had not ever been exposed to. I'm making travel arrangements for executives going over to Ireland and Germany. I'm setting up the boardroom for very important meetings of executives coming over from Mercedes, Volkswagen, like all of these big name companies. I'm that first point of contact for everyone. So I set the bar. It was just such a wonderful, wonderful, delightful experience to work there at that company. At the time, I think it was about 1,000 people. That's the largest company I had ever worked for. And then, I was in reception, but I also fell under the HR department. And I started to do little things for HR beyond the travel stuff, right? They pulled me in to do I-9s. They pulled me in to help out with the career fair. They pulled me in to help out with scheduling testing. And I was like, this is something that I can do and can make a career out of. I got promoted within 6 months of that job from being a receptionist to being an HR administrator.
And the rest is history.
The rest is history. That's the start, folks.
Yeah.
6 months.
Wow.
6 months. And I wanted to know that I started out as a temp. I came in through the temp agency. So After 6 months, they offered me a full-time job with that company, and the rest is history. And hence, that's how Denise Moss, your HR homegirl, got started.
And what was your last corporate role?
Yeah. I was
Mhm.
the VP of HR, led a team of about 8
Mhm.
women over recruiting, payroll and benefits, and learning and development. Small, mighty team as well, but a great company.
Right. So our audience here are typically folks in corporate who are climbing,
Yeah.
and they join us here in this conversation to just better understand, what does it take?
Yeah.
Because we've all seen it. You and I have done the climb ourselves,
Hmm.
where some people just seem to move quickly, and it
Yeah.
seems that they're effortlessly getting promotions and moving around the organization. And other people who are equally as talented in execution
Hmm.
seem to be stuck in the Ferris wheel
Hmm.
of same, and getting feedback like, you're great at your job. We wouldn't know what we would do without you. And yet they're not being tapped
Yeah.
for that next role. And so, in light of that, I'm curious, when you think back on your own career, what would you say was the differentiator?
I got
What do you feel like you were doing differently than other people that allowed you to continue to get those next big roles?
I got another 4-letter word for you. Yeah, grit.
Grit.
Yes. Grit. Being, oh my goodness, like you talk about like for your listeners, you know that you're amazing. You know that you are that person. You're talented. You got the education, you got the experience, you got the soft skills, which are important too, right? But you're continuously either getting looked over or whatever the case is. I was her. I felt at some point, Courtney, I was stuck at, okay, I'm stuck at a manager level, or even I'm stuck at a director level, because a
Yeah.
lot of people get stuck at that director level and they
Yep.
want to go to that VP, SVP, all of that C
Yep.
suite. And I have always been the one when it comes to my life, my career. I'm like, I'm going to make my own path. If this path right here is not being opened up for me, guess what? I'm going to create my own. I'm going to go back just a little bit to the role that I loved, my very first HR role. I was there for like 2.5 years. I was ready to move up. I was ready to be like, I need to be a generalist right now. That's what I felt. And that's what I thought.
Mhm.
And I am at that point in my life that maybe I was not ready, or maybe I was ready, Courtney. But the fact remains is, what is the path to help me get there in either case? And sometimes that's not always as open to you. There is a lot of red tape and different things. I tell people all the time, make your own path. And so what I did, I ended up leaving after 2.5 years, and I took another role, progression,
Mhm.
as an HR coordinator at a company. And so I was an HR department of one, which was new for me at the time. And remember, I'm only like maybe 2.5, 3 years into my career, but I had to stretch myself too. When I got in that role, I knew nothing about government subcontracting. The person that was leading, she offered training, but you have to not be afraid to step outside and say, okay, I want to do this next. I may not check all those boxes, but I can do this. Believing in yourself and having grit is two of the most important characteristics that a person can ever have in any career that you choose to be in. And if
Yeah.
you decide to pivot as well.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. I got chills. I mean, grit is something really interesting, and I know it's gotten a lot of airtime. Angela Duckworth wrote the book Grit, and we all started talking. Of course, you have it right there. But it's amazing, because what I have found, I'm turning 50 this year, so I feel like I have been around the sun a couple times, and I've learned a couple things. What I've learned is that it is true. Some people are born with a lot of grit. They just
Yeah.
are. Other people aren't, and they
Yeah.
are a bit more sensitive to the trials of life as we go along. But it's a skill that can be learned. And this is
Yeah.
what I just want to double down on, because I know it's
Mhm.
easy to look at other people and it's like, gosh, it's just so easy for them. And you assume their life is easy. And
Mhm.
what I have come to know is that nobody's life is
Come
easy.
on.
It's a matter of how strong we are able to build that muscle of grit. And so, from your experience,
Yeah.
what advice would you give someone who maybe knows, I've got to work on that skill for myself? What would you tell them? With
Yeah. Put yourself in situations that you're not comfortable with. And what I mean by that is, open yourself up to networking more. There are times, guess what? I don't feel like doing something, but I know that I need to get out there. I need to network. I need to have visibility. I need to challenge myself mentally. And then whatever that is, putting yourself in something or some place that you are not as comfortable is going to not only stretch you, but it's going to build character. And I'm a strong believer in that. And excuse me, I think too, like you said, we're not all born with it, but guess what? We can develop that muscle to have that grit. And there were some instances even with me that I naturally am a person that I don't like confrontation, but I had to start getting comfortable with being confrontational and pushing back, as a woman as well who is running a business. You have to have some grit and you have to be able to push back because otherwise you will get looked over, run over, all the things. And so I tell people, please put yourself in a situation that you're not necessarily as comfortable with and
Mhm.
do it. Just do it. It may not be perfect, but guess what? How you learn how to perfect something is repetitive.
Yeah.
You keep doing it.
Yeah. It
You
truly is.
get me fired up.
But because I think you and I, again, not only have we made the climb, but I do feel like when you are in that top HR seat, you've got this bird's eye view. And so it's easy for us to say, here's what the issue is. And what I want to debunk here is like, here's practically how you can do it.
Yeah.
Because it is doing the reps. It is a muscle and you have to lean into it. I know it's like such a buzzword, just lean into the discomfort.
Yeah.
But that's what you've got to do. And if you need a
Yeah.
coach or you need a mentor, that's cool. Seek that out and
Yeah.
start small where it's not so risky. If you're uncomfortable, I have a client actually that I'm working with now who is very uncomfortable with confrontation.
Yeah.
And he and I were talking about what are small, non-risky confrontations you can get into. One of them was with his children. How do you parent and push back? Because that's uncomfortable. Let's start there because they fire you. All right. So
Oh, yeah.
figure out a way where it is safe to do and start to
Mhm.
practice it because we all have our
Absolutely.
own brand of pushback and confrontation. So tell me more about that because I think it's very common, not just for women. I have a lot of
Mhm.
men who I coach who also have a hard time with conflict. So tell
Yeah.
us how you were able to build that.
No, it doesn't come natural, and I have to go back to how I was brought up. So I'm the oldest and I'm the only girl, and there are a lot of boys in our family, and so I learned early on as well to push back, to say no, to voice my opinion as well, because I think back to when I was a child, I would always be like, yes, and always be very, very respectful, but I never pushed back. And then something just clicked, Courtney, when I was around 12 or 13, kind of going into high school. And I just started to build upon that, build upon that, build upon that. And I learned too, with that in corporate America, no is a complete sentence. And it is okay to say no. Practice saying no. You talk about something that's easy. No.
And those two letters are sometimes the hardest thing to utter,
It's
especially at work when you don't want to say no because you want to be seen as the team player and the
yeah.
guy or gal who's going to get it done. Coach, just put me on the field. So just say no.
Yeah, just say no, but also, I mean, let me backpedal just a little bit too, because you made me think of something. Say no, but also be discretionary with it too. Don't just say no
Mhm.
just for the purpose of saying no, right? But say no. I'm protective of my time, especially as I've gotten more seasoned in my career. When you're young and you're vibrant, you're like yes, 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 yes to everything, right? Because you do want to prove yourself. But you also have to say no to protect your mental, to protect your time,
Yeah.
because everyone will dump on you. But guess what? You, at the end of the day, you're still trying to get your stuff done too. And you're balancing it, whether you are a parent, whether you are a caregiver, all of our lives look different. Whether you're in school, you have to set yourself up for success. And setting yourself up for success sometimes is saying no.
Say no. And another flavor of saying no is delegating. So it doesn't have to be the flat no, period. It
Yeah.
can be no for me. This is not where I should be spending my time. And
Yes.
it's got to be delegated either down to your team or out to another department who is more appropriate to be handling it. So we can get creative with the no, but I think like the huge salient point here is understand your own boundaries.
Yes.
We are not unlimited resources as humans, and there is only so much. And to your point, having that judgment, especially as you are in more senior level roles,
Mhm.
of where my time is best protected, because I cannot give everything to everyone. That's a very sophisticated executive level skill that
Yes.
if someone can practice, that
Yeah.
is going to serve you well.
It will. And I'm going to add another layer to that too. Saying no, and you may delay it. Guess what? Ask what the prioritization is on this ask.
Mhm.
Because sometimes people will ask you to do something and it's not due right then and there. And if you ask more clarifying questions, that has saved me in my career. Asking
Mhm.
clarifying questions, saying, okay, you're asking me to do this. When do you need this by?
Yep. Yep.
I don't need it until next Friday. Okay, great. Well, then it's not no, it is I'll get to this later. And
Mhm.
guess what? It's a win win on both sides.
Yep. I have a client now who I'm working with, and she is one of these overachievers where she knows, and she's not wrong. She can do it better and faster than anyone else can do it. And so she will say yes to it all. She also has
Mhm.
this personal agreement of integrity with herself that she will respond to
Mm.
every email before sundown, right? Before the end of the day. I shouldn't say before sundown, before midnight, because she is
Yeah.
churning. And the work here is this all urgent? Is it all
Yes.
urgent? Because sometimes we are in our own ways. It's not necessarily our companies dumping and
Hmm.
with expectations that are unreasonable. Sometimes we've got to look in the mirror and say,
Yes.
where am
Yes.
I getting in the way here? And
Yeah.
that's where having an external peer and partner to say, hey, you can't see this because you're in your own jar, but let me tell you what's going on with the
It's so
situation.
true. That's so true. It's a balance too because I'm big on wanting to make sure that I keep my word. If
Yeah.
I tell you that I'm going to do something, I want to make sure that Denise does it because for me and for your listeners too, it also helps build trust.
Yeah. That's such
Trust
an
is
important.
important.
Yes.
Yeah.
We build trust by doing what we say we're going to do. And I love the point about commitments and integrity because in the
Hmm.
case of my client, this is a really interesting kind of case study that I think a lot of
Yeah.
people can relate to because her past behavior showed that she will get things done and she'll respond to you by the end of the day. That then
Hmm.
became this unspoken expectation. And so she felt that it was out of integrity to not make everything high
Hmm.
priority and respond by the end of the day. So
Yeah.
she almost had to reestablish these working commitments with different
Hmm.
people
Yeah.
where it was if it's a requirement coming from your boss or from your boss's boss, that stuff that's priority, right? Like that
Yes.
stays in the prioritized bucket.
Hmm.
If it is somebody who you do not need to be responding to right away, let
Hmm.
them know right away. I'll look
Yes.
at this by the end of the week. Right. And
Yes.
usually they'll be like, cool, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I think just for the listeners, look out for where you're in your own way because this
Yeah.
happens more often than we realize.
It does, and we put unnecessary stress and stressors on ourselves, and I think too, you hit on this. I learned later on in my career, communicate, ask clarifying questions because to your point, something could be due the end of next week. You're internalizing and saying, "Oh my God, they've asked me, they trusted me. I don't want to let them down, so I need to get this done." And if you had to just simply just send that Slack, send that Teams message and say, hey, you sent this to me. There wasn't a clear expectation of when it was due. Can you provide some insight on when you were expecting this? And you both get on the same page, and it saves you a lot of undue stress. That's the cheat code right there, Courtney.
That is the cheat code. Because here's the thing from two HR execs, what
Yeah.
that shows us when we're behind closed doors making decisions is that you
Hmm.
have judgment. You have
Yes.
judgment because we have to trust that if we're going to give you even more responsibility,
Hmm.
that you know how to discern and decide
Yes.
and communicate when you can turn things around. So it's
Absolutely.
not about she didn't get it all done by midnight. It's about she's going to be really clear with me when
Hmm.
she's got too much on her plate that she needs to prioritize. And now I trust that we can
Hmm.
give this person more. And that is the cheat code. I couldn't agree more.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that word trust. It keeps
Yep.
coming up.
Yep.
Trust.
Yep.
It's huge. It's important.
Yep. I want to go back to the idea or the instance of feeling stuck in your career. Because like you
Yeah.
mentioned, a lot of us kind of at that manager director level. And for me, I felt stuck at director for years. And I was churning out the best work of my life and I was getting recognized for good work. And I was seeing people get promoted over me.
Mm-hmm.
And I thankfully had a boss at the time who was really good at giving very direct feedback. And I was lucky because you and I both know most people are not getting direct feedback from their bosses. They're simply not, which is why
Mm-hmm.
you are running blind. And this is why we
Yeah.
are on the pod, right? Trying to shine the light on. So he gave me really direct feedback and said, "You're
Yeah.
doing great work, but no one knows you." And
Oh.
I was with a huge multinational organization at the time. So
Mm-hmm.
organizationally it was complicated. And he said, "I know you and your work,
Mm-hmm.
but I'm not in control of your next promotion. People don't, you are." And I never would have realized that if he didn't
Yeah.
whack me between the forehead with the 2x4. And so then it got back to networking, make my career desires known, make
Mhm.
sure that I was in the visibility path of people who needed to know
Yes.
what I'm doing. And when we talk about office politics, this is part
Mhm.
of the game. And I
Yeah.
know people bristle and I know I'm going to get haters like nobody should have to play politics, but there is a way to go about navigating your career in corporate. And this is what it's about. And
It
so
is.
I'm curious about like your stuck story and how you were able to get unstuck.
Mhm. You said it. You have to play the game. I'm gonna get some haters too because people don't like that, but it's true. I'm going to build on to what you said, Courtney. I was at that director level. My gosh, one company I was there for 5 years at the
Yep.
director level.
Yep.
Then the other one, same thing. And then it was when I got to another one of my favorite careers. It was a company called Landing, and Landing is based out of Birmingham, Alabama. But I was there as a senior director, and our COO, Marcus Higgins, who is an amazing executive and leader, I took on a project when I first got there. And you talk about visibility. And at the time, I didn't know this. It was an implementation of UKG, which was the system. No one wanted this project. It had been stuck between the people team and finance. There was no momentum on it or anything. I come in the door fresh off the street and I'm like, okay, I'll take that project. I'll do it. That project got me that visibility. It was a part of me implementing it for one of the largest departments, and Marcus Higgins knew my name. You are so right. And I'm going to go back to what we said at the first part of the interview for your listeners, creating, going, network, making a path for yourself, right? No one wanted this. You could take stuff on. Volunteer. Raise your hand. I got it. I'll do it. And understand to listen, you're going to have haters. You're going to have somebody, you got to have some tough skin too. They may have not wanted the project, but then they're going to look at you. You take it. Courtney thinks she's all that. Denise thinks she's all that. I do. And I do. Because guess what? I'm the one that's brave enough to do this. It may not be perfect. It may not come. It may have obstacles, but you did it. That project was supposed to be, I think it was supposed to have rolled out December of that year. I actually got sick to my stomach, and I want your listeners to know this. I got sick to my stomach because I didn't want to let Marcus down. That project, we had some obstacles, and it would not be rolled out until February of the next year. I literally almost vomited when I knew I had to go to Marcus and tell him that this would not happen. But you know what I did? I sat in my little cubicle
Hmm.
and I womaned up.
Yeah.
And I went in there and I said, hey, I need to speak with you. I was honest about where we were. I talked to people. I said, what should I tell him? I actually went on a run with one of my buddies and I said, I can't let Marcus down. And he gave me some good advice. He says, be honest, Denise. Tell him what's going on. Tell him what happened. I went in there and I told him. And when I tell you, and I'm not at Landing, obviously, but we still have the best relationship to this day. And I can call on Marcus. I actually went and met with him a few months ago and just got some advice.
Yeah.
So for your listeners, own it, raise your hand for that project, create visibility for yourself. Like you said, people need to know who you are.
Yeah.
Because you could be doing great work, but behind the scenes, no, raise your hand for that demo at the next all hands.
Yeah.
You've been working on an amazing project. AI is front and center. If you've been doing some amazing work, demo it.
Yeah.
Let people know who you are.
Yep. And I love that because demoing it gives you a reason to raise your hand and say, let me show it to you. Because I'd love to know what you would say to these folks, because I hear from a lot of people that I don't want to do that. That kind of self-promotion feels so cringy. And it feels like grandstanding if I speak up too much in a meeting or volunteer too much. I look like I'm a brown noser or whatnot. So I know that there's heightened sensitivity to doing
Mhm.
just this. So I'd love to know what you would tell those people.
Stop caring so much about what people say because people are going to talk regardless. They're going to talk if you're doing bad. They're going to talk if you're behind the scenes. They're going to talk if you're in the scene, if you are the scene. Stop caring about what people say so much. That's my advice. I had to get over that because I didn't want to be the person to raise my hand in a meeting all the time. I didn't want to be the person to be featured or demoing something. And then it got to the point where I kept getting looked over because I did care too much. And when I stopped caring and when I started doing things on my terms and my way, that's when people started to care about me and wanted my opinion and wanted to hear
Mm.
what I had to say.
Wow.
That's that's it. It's not rocket science.
That's
Stop caring so much about what people are thinking about you.
And there's really no magic pill for that, is there? I mean, it's like you just have to decide and continue to remind yourself, I no longer worry about that.
Yeah, you have
Right.
to wake up and like you said, you have to wake up one day and say, I'm gonna stop caring about what people think about me, what people say about me, because you will lose sleep. You will worry yourself into something that you don't want. And you just have to stop caring. And people pick up on when you have that self-assuredness, when you are confident, they know that, and people are drawn to that.
Magnetic, right? And
Yeah.
so I ask my guests about the concept of executive presence because this is another one that I want to debunk for people out there
Mhm.
because I know a lot of people are still getting that work on your executive presence advice. And they're like, what is it? Like, I'll do
Ex
it if I just know what it is. For me, when you mention that magnetism and
Mhm.
that confidence, to me, that is executive presence. But I want to qualify it
Yeah.
because we're not talking about condescending confidence. We're not talking about, I'm better than all of you and I'm the smartest person in the room. We're talking about a very quiet self assuredness
Mhm.
that reads
Mhm.
as confidence. It also reads as stability. So again,
Mhm.
from a decision maker, like we're going to promote the people that we can trust to be able to handle emotional containment, being that just sort of pillar of calm
Mhm.
and of judgment. Like to me, that is what executive presence is. But I'd be curious to
Yeah.
know what you would add to that or if you disagree.
Yeah, I agree 100. And one thing that I would add to that about executive presence is I noticed that when I was studying those people that I felt that had executive presence, they were not only confident, but they also were respectful.
Mhm.
Like I've been in, and you have too, you've been in rooms where people have not necessarily always agreed. And I noticed that even when a person may not agree with the other person, and they're maybe poking holes in what they present, there's a level of respect at the end of the day, both in that room and outside of that room. I've seen people maybe go at it and then they leave out and they may shake hands or they go have a coffee. That is a part of having executive presence is having a sense of respect and making sure that you hear the other side out and you also try to put yourselves in their shoes too. And I'll add one more thing, finding common ground.
Mm.
You may not always agree with that person, but you find something that you can meet in the middle and say, okay, I may not agree with that, but I can do this right here. And I think that we both can meet in the middle here. That makes people more receptive to you and want to collaborate and work with you.
Mhm. Right. Decide what hill you're prepared to die on because
That's right.
you can only die once, right? So you want to be careful. But it's also really good advice for life.
Yeah.
This is a part of what I love about having a career in HR
Hmm.
is that it really is all about the psychology of how people can work together and be not only their the most influential that they can be, but as the best version of themselves, which is not easy to do. There
Hmm.
were many years in my career where I was the farthest thing from the best version of myself because I had this mask that I thought I had to be a certain way at work. And again, experience tells me that was a lot of wasted years and, learning the hard way that the most successful, most fulfilled executives out there have figured out how to be the best version of themselves at work. And so that's what we get to do as HR
Yeah.
professionals and what I get to do now as a coach. And so I'd love to just kind of last minute advice that you would give to people who are climbing and who are
Yeah.
really keen to continue to find ways to stand out in a positive way.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Invest in yourself. Continue to invest in you. Investing yourself is a book. Investing in yourself is attending a webinar. Investing in yourself is putting yourself in rooms with people that are not like you. Being a lifelong learner. Always. That is the probably if they don't remember anything else, invest in you.
Love it. Love it. So, Denise, I always end my pod with asking my guest about their favorite book. We talked about Grit, Angela Duckworth's, that you have it, like we mentioned it and you're like, here it is. So clearly that is a favorite. What else do you have for us? What should I be adding to my Amazon cart?
Yeah. So I have a couple of books right here. The 5 a.m. Club by Robin Sharma, Pushback. But my favorite book, and I always go back to it, is The 48 Laws of Power. It's a classic. It is absolutely, you want to learn business and life. It is an amazing read. I continuously reread it probably once a year. It's amazing.
I
48
just
Laws of
wrote it
Power.
down. I don't have
Yeah.
it yet. So thank you. What is the one law of power that stands out for you from the book?
Yeah, I think, my God, this is gonna sound so bad. It is finish them.
What does it mean?
It literally means that if you have something or someone and that person has, I don't know, crossed you or whatever the case is, guess what? You have the opportunity to finish them. You better finish them. But I absolutely love that one because if someone has done you wrong or continuously, guess what? Cut them off, have no other dealings with them. And I've used that also in business. If it's a client, if someone has continuously just, crossed your path in a not good way, guess what? Finish it, be done with it, close the book on them, and don't
So finish
revisit it.
them. So we're not
Mhm.
talking finish them, throw them under the bus and have the upper
Oh,
hand.
no.
We're talking of this. We're back to boundaries. We're talking
Yep.
about cut
Boundaries.
that cancer out and move on with your life.
Cut it out, and you'll sleep better at night. That's my
Powerful.
favorite.
Powerful. Denise, thank you so much. I've
Thank
loved
you.
having you in the promotion room. We appreciate all of the advice.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you having me.
Thanks for joining me inside the promotion room. And be sure to follow the show so you never miss an episode. Cheers to your success.